this week's programme. Well, the Salthill Airshow wasn't that far away, and we're very lucky that one of the pilots competing as an aerobatic pilot is our own Jimmy Griffin from Galway. Jimmy, can you let me know how you got started as an aerobatic pilot?
Many years ago I went flying with Kieran Scully from the Galway Flying Club in a Stamp SV4A, which is an aerobatic biplane, and I suppose that kindled an interest in aerobatic flying.
Can you tell me what's the progression between flying a regular club aircraft and the Yak?
Well, the transition is not too serious or severe. Obviously a lot more to do with stalling and spinning characteristics, handling the aircraft in unusual attitudes. For instance, if you find yourself upside down without proper training, you'd find yourself pulling on the stick and getting yourself into deeper and deeper trouble. So it's a relearning of the entire process of flying for inverted flight and for knife edge flight.
There's lots of flight training schools and clubs around the country. Where would you go to learn about aerobatic flying?
At the moment, really, there's not any opening for aerobatic flying as such in Ireland. Most people would have to go to the UK in order to get an aerobatic rating. There are some private owners who own aircraft and normally go to the UK to get their training done there.
So what's the attraction?
The attraction, I suppose, is the freedom of the skies, the ability to fly three-dimensional, and it's just the whole experience and thrill of aerobatic flying that I suppose keeps people who get hooked on it coming back for more.
Obviously there's a lot more stresses on the aircraft when you're pulling different kinds of manoeuvres. Can you tell me the differences between an aerobatic aircraft and a regular one?
Well, fundamentally there are many differences, beginning with the airframe. A normal aircraft is subject to very low positive and negative G-loading, possibly +3, maybe -1 for a standard Cessna. An aircraft like the Yak or any capable aerobatic aircraft would be stressed to +7, -5 G, or even up to +10 for some of the stronger and world-class aerobatic aircraft. Going on then to power plant, most engines are just normally aspirated. They do not have inverted fuel and oil systems, so for instance if you were to turn a Cessna upside down, it's quite likely to cut out because there's no pump or no fuel being injected into the engine, whereas an aerobatic aircraft has an inverted oil and fuel sump so that the fuel and oil remain pumping into the engine even though the aircraft is upside down, normally sustained for 2 to 3 minutes, followed by a minute or two of upright flight again just to rectify the inverted oil sump.
Now obviously there's quite a lot of manoeuvres that can be done in the aircraft. How do you decide on what you're going to include in your display?
Well, for me, generally I would consider myself a safe aerobatic pilot. I'm not too keen on being too close to the ground. I believe in high margins of safety. I think it's paramount for an aerobatic pilot to set limits and keep with them. And in this case the Yak 52, because of its size and speed, it favours gentle aerobatic displays with nice large arcs, as against something like a Pit Special, which is a very small aircraft, a lot more manoeuvrable and would probably look better being displayed with shorter, sharper manoeuvres. So it's basically based on safety primarily, and secondly graceful manoeuvres that can display the aircraft effectively to the public.
Now obviously safety is paramount for both the pilot and the audience that would be at an air show. What kind of equipment would you find in an aerobatic airplane?
Well, there's an obligation on the pilot to first of all undergo training and to get what's called a DA or a display authorization, which is an addition to a pilot's license. It can be a private pilot license, and in order to get a display authorization you are examined on how you perform handling the aircraft in terms of positioning, maneuverability, your sequence, and whether you breach the parameters that you've already set with your examiner. So this has to be renewed every 13 months, and he will basically critique you at the end of your flight, and he will be able to point out to you whether what you're doing is safe or unsafe, or he may even advise that you change the sequence to make it more comfortable and more pleasant viewing for the spectators.
Obviously the equipment and the actual the plane and that is very expensive. Is it an expensive hobby to be involved in?
I suppose primarily it is. I'm very lucky that David McCoy has lent me his aircraft. He'll be joining us in Galway for the air show with his Yak 50, which is a single-seater variant of the Yak 52 you see behind me. It's 800 pounds lighter with a single seat, so it has a far greater performance than the Yak 52. A beautiful machine.
You're going to be displaying in Salthill in one of the largest free air shows in Europe, which is also going to include the Thunderbirds. Do you feel any pressure on you?
No pressure at all. I feel privileged to be part of it. Extremely lucky to be given the loan of a beautiful airplane by Dave McCoy again, and I'm really looking forward to the day and hope the weather holds.
You have displayed in the Galway Air Show before. Tell me what it's like up there. You're doing what you love, and you look down and see those massive crowds.
Well, the crowd looks small, I suppose, when you're higher up, but yet you do see that there's a hell of an amount of people down there. It's a fantastic experience, a really great buzz, and I suppose at the end of the day we're there for the crowd's enjoyment, and let's just hope that everybody has a fantastic day.
I mean, you're going to be doing your thing in the Yak, but what kind of an addition do you think having the Thunderbirds coming to Galway is?
I think it's going to be a fantastic experience. It's the first time they've ever displayed in Ireland, and it has taken a hell of a lot of organisation, and I would imagine pull to get them here. So for me, I just hope that I get slotted in early so I can make it back out to Salthill for the finale.
So how long do you think your display will last?
Normally somewhere between 6 and 12 minutes, depending on what's the requirement and whether there's any additional aircraft are put into the show, or whether somebody goes out unserviceable, which can also happen.
So you do this as a hobby. Is there an opening or a desire on your part maybe to become a professional aerobatic display pilot?
No, I quite enjoy just doing it for pleasure, and I would imagine that's the way I intend to keep it.
So you unwind and you relax by flying airplanes and being an aerobatic pilot. How does that fit in with your day job?
Well, I suppose I've had a break of over 4 years from aerobatic flying, and it's a return at the moment. My day job, I run a bakery with my parents in Galway, and I bake bread and make cakes and keep accounts for a living, so it's completely diverse, I suppose. It gets me completely switched off from the day job.
And how did you get involved in flying in the first place?
A desire to fly as a very young child. From the age of 5 or 6, I knew I wanted to fly an airplane at some stage. Saw my mother take off on a 707 Pan Am off to America many years ago with my father in Shannon, and from that day since I've been hooked with airplanes.
Well, there you go. Very definitely the ride of a lifetime. That's it from Galway in Focus this week. Remember, if you'd like to comment on anything we feature, you can email me,